I just got a new dieting idea. I think that you and I should market this. We're going to call it the Facebook video diet. And we're just going to write a book.
Yep.
With very detailed instructions, a standard operating procedure of how to watch Facebook videos and fall down the rabbit hole of Facebook videos to the point where you forget to eat.
God, we'd be good at that.
And then people lose weight and we get lots of money. Which we could then in turn put into video games.
Yeah, I like this idea.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective Podcast. You are listening to episode 30. I am your host, Will, and filling in for the man of the year, Drew, and gifted with my best friend, Tom. Tom, how you living, man?
Large
and in charge.
Is there any other way to answer that question?
No, but I feel like the way that I said large and in charge, it just makes me feel like I'm maybe referring to you as being obese. Mildly obese.
Thank you.
I don't want to say the word fat because I feel like you just can't say that anymore.
I don't
make fun of fat people, but I just feel like that's not the right way to introduce you.
Well, I would agree.
You're living large. I think we should just run with that. I'm living large as well. I'm on a miniature vacation here with you and your wife and my wife, and it's been fantastic. I've really disconnected. And now we're connected, and we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because there's something very special that I want to share with everyone. And I can't wait. What have you been playing?
I've been playing a few things. I recently purchased Divinity 2.
Okay.
I, not knowing anything about it, I've never played the first one. I never thought about the first one. I never heard of the second one or thought about the second one. I'm going to admit something that I don't usually admit to a lot of people.
I like people admitting things.
I don't even know if this is something that you know.
I can't wait to hear this.
This is going to be good. This is going to explain my jump into Divinity 2 in a really roundabout type of way.
Okay.
So I am secretly, and I think for anyone who knows me, it's going to be kind of a surprising thing, because of the way I dress, present myself, being a musician for, more years than I can count. I'm always very, I always like to make sure I'm stylish and, et cetera, tattoos, the whole nine, right?
You want to look like a retired rock star.
Which I do.
But still like a maintained retired rock star. Not washed up.
Right.
Maintained.
Right.
Maybe you still do a couple gigs here and there.
Yep.
And people can see that in the way that you carry yourself and the way you dress.
And I would say that is how I come across.
Yeah, 1905 shirts definitely define that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I am very, very much a closet nerd. And my nerdness does not stop at video games, right?
Okay.
Which obviously we've talked before our last show that you guys had me on. I gave the entire history of my video gaming. Outside of that, I am also very much into fantasy.
Yes, you are.
I love reading fantasy. I love playing, board games and stuff like that. I really like you've seen some of the board games I have. They're like fantasy driven, role playing, etc. One thing I've never gotten into, but always secretly wanted to get into, was Dungeons and Dragons. Ever since I was a kid, right? And so recently, as an adult, I decided to see what I can do about that. Can this be something I get into? And so I did some Facebook searches, and I actually found a D&D Facebook group that I joined.
Okay.
And
Was it a closed group?
It is a closed group.
Okay.
Because I would never join that,
just
publicly.
Openly. Yeah, that's one of those posts that you want to make sure that it didn't go public on your feed.
Yeah, I don't want people knowing. I used to be really into Magic too, right? And as an adult person in their 30s, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some listeners who may have played or do play Magic, and I personally enjoy it quite a lot. But given the, given who I am and the other friends that I have and the circles I run with, it's never been something that I shared with anybody.
Sure.
Because I'm friends with you, and then outside of that, I'm friends with a bunch of people that I was in bands with, and so
right.
they nerd out on music. They don't even play video games, truth be told, which is a little weird.
Well, there's a heavy judgment zone that comes with the territory of D&D and those kinds of games.
Yes.
And it's hard to escape that, even if you are proud of that. And that kind of harkens back to being a closet nerd, right? I mean, there's a reason why you have that term behind who you are, because you're not out of the closet.
That's true. No, I'm very much still in it. I guess I'm a little bit out of closet now.
Yeah. You got one foot out.
Yeah. My wife doesn't even know.
But I feel like the 1 foot out might be putting it lightly, because I've seen your collection of board games, and I feel like you really dove in deep here. I mean, you have a sizable collection, considering you're just kind of getting into it now,
and
right?
I've played 0 of them because I literally I have no one who actually is interested in playing.
Well, yeah, you absolutely need friends, and not even friends. You just need people that play it.
I don't even need to like them. I just need people who are going to show up on a semi-regular. I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've digressed, as I often do. Digress a lot. So on this D&D page, on this Facebook page, and again, I'm lurking. I have not actually played Dungeons and Dragons ever in my life. I still want to, and maybe someday that will happen. I don't know. But on this page, someone had posted about, video games that are the most like Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
And obviously Baldur's Gate is going to get referenced into that. Now, that was a game, 2000s, early 2000s. They had a couple of them. I think the one that I played, I think it might have been Baldur's Gate 2, was on one of the Nintendo GameCube.
Really?
Yeah. And it was exceptionally, it was such a good game. It was what kind of got me into that over the top looking RPGs.
Yes. Very specific camera angle for those games.
Yep. And that's like the Diablo and stuff like that.
Yes.
Now, Baldur's Gate was less point and click like Diablo is.
Okay.
And more action based. Anyway, so they had posted about Divinity 2 being like the, mecca of video games that are, just phenomenal, right? And then there was a lot of posts
in that genre.
In that genre.
Okay.
And there was a lot of posts specifically. I'd say probably about 100 people or more in this one Facebook post about video games relating to D&D.
Okay.
Praised Divinity 2.
Yeah. Well, apparently the first one was a big success.
Yeah. And no idea.
I'm only going off of like a Steam review. Right?
Yeah.
Because I remember years ago the first game came out. I saw it on Steam. It might have been when I was like hunting Steam sales.
Sure.
And it just said best RPG of our time. And I was like, maybe I'll keep this on my radar. And I remember the boss I was working for at the time, he was huge into it. And I kind of trusted him, even though I kind of hated him. I trusted him when it came to those kinds of games.
Sure.
So, with that being said, I watched Tom play some of Divinity 2.
Yep.
Right? And the first one, I think, is Divinity Original Sin. I think that's the name of the game.
Yeah, I think so.
And it looks good. It reminded me of that horrible game that we played.
Kingdoms of Amalur or something?
Dungeon Siege.
Dungeon
3.
Yes. Yeah, that was awful.
The premise seemed fine, and the gameplay was actually not that bad.
Who did we play with?
It was me, you, and I want to say Raph.
It was Raph.
Joined us, because he's kind of into that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I remember there were some elements about this game that were really good. Like the graphics were nice. The premise was all right. The music was fantastic.
Yeah.
The gameplay was good. But other than that, like, there was a lot of script. There was a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like weird story elements that I think all of us just felt very compelled to skip.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think at the time we were just looking for a co-op game.
Yeah,
that's that is exactly what we were doing.
Yeah, no, that was when we were doing nothing but co-op.
Yes.
Like we would, we were burning through all of the co-op games that we could play together.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be Resident Evil, we played a few of those.
Resident Evil 5.
A bunch of different stuff. My favorite mechanic of that game, the Dungeon Siege.
Yeah.
Was the fact that it would go that the characters, if I walked away, let's say, it would move and keep up with you guys.
That's right.
And go into an autoplay mode, and basically I slept through that entire game.
Yeah, it was perfect for napping.
Yeah, it was really
that enjoy napping during
video game sessions.
Yeah,
which is what I did every time. I did not like the game. I thought it was horribly boring, to the point where it literally put me to sleep.
It was
every time that we played, and we're not talking like we were playing it for hours and then I doze off. We'd be playing for about 3 minutes and then I would fall asleep.
Yeah,
and you would not know, and Ralph would not know, because my character is moving along, doing its thing, and I don't know, whatever character I was.
Did we share that with each other? Did you admit that?
It wasn't until like long after, I think.
You were like, oh, it turns out, guys, that I was asleep a lot. And I discovered an element to the game where I can fall asleep or just basically put the controller down. My character is going to follow, and I just chose not to tell you because I didn't want to reveal that I was actually napping the whole time.
Correct.
But anyway, that's a cool feature, and I'm going to get going.
Yep.
And then you probably just either got offline or stopped playing, or we just moved on and just said, well, you know what, Tom's out, so this was a squad effort, and the team's not there, so...
I was there.
Well, I feel like with that game, it's like one team, one dream kind of situation. If you don't have the team, what are you doing? You're sitting in the menu and you're enjoying the music, which was one of the few things about that game that was actually good.
I think ultimately what it boils down to is, if they did not want people to sleep during their video game, they would not have put in a mechanic that would allow people to sleep in their video game while still playing.
There's got to be a reason why they did that.
For people like me, because they realized that the game was awful and so boring that it literally put people to sleep. And it's not, I don't have narcolepsy. This isn't something where I just fall asleep randomly just because.
No, it was Dungeon Siege 3 was the problem.
Yeah.
But goddamn, the music was so good.
It was good. I don't even know if it was Dungeon Siege 3. I feel like it was Kingdom of something or other.
It wasn't.
Was another.
The reason why I know this is because I latch onto memories like that more than I remember what I did yesterday, number one. And two, Kingdoms of Amular or whatever, that was another game that I never even touched.
Oh, was that one that I bought and then I probably just hated it?
I think so. A lot of people bought that game around that time period. And some people played it and some people didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that it was the artwork was done by somebody famous.
It was very good. It was a very good looking game.
The guy that draws for Spawn. Whoever that guy is, he's a famous artist. I'm pretty sure he specialized in doing the art for that game. There was somebody involved in that game that was kind of famous. But yeah, kind of didn't do that well.
No.
It's a cult game,
I don't, for me, for my money, it wasn't really worth much of anything.
But yeah, going back to Divinity 2.
Yeah, so the game's fantastic.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan. It has your very basic, fantasy tropes. It is very Dungeon and Dragons-esque. You start off with the main character, which you get to choose. You can either choose from a preset of 5 or 6 different characters each. You got a ranger, a magician, etc. Right? Magician, mage.
Yeah.
Not a magician pulling rabbits.
Spellcaster.
Yeah, spellcaster.
There's a lot of different ways to spin it.
Dwarf, etc. Right?
Sure. And you're playing a skeleton.
You can switch off the characters. My main character, I picked the standard ranger type guy. I've always kind of default to the bow. I like the range characters.
Okay.
But you can switch, and each character does different things. Now, the skeleton character can pick locks with its finger, which makes him which makes him a nice character to lead off on, because you get to open the chest and you don't have to switch back and forth, right?
Makes him a nice character. Okay.
Yeah. But it starts off, you get a group and you meet everyone individually, and then you get to go on an epic adventure. Now, I'm not too far into the game, but I do like the mechanics.
Okay.
It's a throwback to the turn-based RPGs, which
I like that.
But it's done well. It's done very, very well.
It does look like it's done well. Like, I was watching just even the cursor that you kind of move around, the way that it was traveling over the steps and everything. It just looked like they put a lot of time into, really making that look special. And, like you said, it's a throwback to turn-based. And that's not for everybody, but for that kind of game, it's a little bit different, because I don't think all of those kinds of games are turn-based, right?
No, they're not.
They're not.
A lot of the now RPGs are more, third person action, right?
Yeah, they're getting away from that.
Where it's like a hack and slash, meets RPG, and you can think of really anything, The Witcher, all that other stuff. Now this one is done because it's a nice mixture of turn-based and strategy. Now if you think back to like Final Fantasy, whatever number pick it, right? It's always going to be, you got 3-4 characters, they're stationary, you don't move them, monster goes, you go, character A goes, right? Monster B goes, character B goes, etc. Now this one, there are some strategic elements in that you can move and choose where to move the character around the fight area. And it's not like the fight area is real time. It doesn't pop you into like a load screen like old school RPGs does. I
wasn't a huge fan of that.
No, it just happens, organically. So the environment that you get attacked in, is the environment that you fight in.
Yeah, you're not going
and
somewhere
so you
else.
can climb up ladders, and for a ranged character, for instance, you get bonuses for being at a higher elevation, attacking someone lower. Then there's if there's water, you can electrocute the water if you have enemies standing in water, type of thing.
That's cool.
And it's just it has a lot of strategic moments that I think, honestly, like, I have not discovered all of them yet. Again, I'm relatively new, but I think that it adds a lot to it.
Okay.
And the story is fantastic so far. Yeah, I'm hooked. Like, if I have a moment, that's what I'm playing.
Is it a lot of cinematic breaks with like actual spoken dialogue?
There is spoken dialogue, but it's not over the top.
Okay.
Now, you and I, we talked about this. I like Metal Gear Solid.
Sure.
But I hate Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
And the reason why I hate it is probably the reason why most people love it.
Yes.
Because I don't want to sit through 3 hours of a cutscene and admire, and sit through a movie before I can even start playing.
It's understandable.
I don't have that kind of time, especially in my older age. I like to get in and play a video game and just have it be done. With that said, I do like some cinematic moments, and I do like dialogue, but I like it to be kind of...
It's got to be balanced.
I like it at my own pace, know? I get why people like long drawn out cutscenes, because it's more of an immersive experience as far as video games. For me, I don't have hours a day to spend on video games. I usually have a half hour to an hour before I have to cook dinner, get ready for bed, whatever the case is, right? So outside of Divinity 2, which I love and strongly suggest for anyone who likes RPG type elements, I'm playing a lot of Apex. The game is fun.
Apex Legends.
Yeah. It's just very easy to pick up.
Okay.
You pick it up, you play a game, it lasts 5, 10, 15 minutes if you're sometimes, I mean, I've done well and had gotten first, and it lasts a solid 30, 45 minutes. That's not usually the case, though. I'm not that good.
This is a shooter, right?
It's just a shooter, just a looter shooter. You get you progressively pick up more and more better loot. Yeah. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 type stuff, and then each character has their own set of things that they can do. They have their own special abilities
and stuff. Yeah,
and it's kind of nice. It's a fun, easy game to get into.
It looks fun. I really don't know much about it, but I know that it's extremely popular.
Yeah,
and it kind of has like almost like a silly vibe to it, like sort of the way that Borderlands did, right?
Yes, it's very similar to Borderlands.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's really for me because when it comes to shooters, I prefer something a little bit more realistic.
Sure.
However, I might be willing to try it. Maybe
It's fun.
before I leave.
Yeah, maybe before you leave, we'll pop it in.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of your side hustle essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then your Divinity is your main career.
Yep.
In gaming. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
no,
and then that'll probably change relatively soon. A game that I actually just beat, and this is probably the first game that I beat in more years than I can count, was Evoland.
Yeah, tell me more about this. I don't know anything.
So Evoland is it's a very short game, maybe 10 hours or so.
Oh, that's it?
And the whole premise is that it's a evolving RPG.
Okay.
Like an old school RPG. And what's great about it is it starts off as like a 1980 something circa RPG, starts off in black and white with like awful 8-bit graphics, and then it's more of like text based, right?
Yep.
Not even like a turn based, it's just 100% text, and then it like you slowly evolve into more of a more modern RPG.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And so it goes through the motions, and then like you unlock one of the first things you unlock is you open up a chest randomly, and then it's music.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden you get like 8-bit music into a game that was silent before, and then you unlock color, you unlock 16-bit graphics, you unlock this and that, and
when did this come out?
Oh, geez, I don't. There's the first one came maybe five or more years ago.
Really?
There's another one too. It's a nice indie game. I picked it up on Steam.
Yep.
One of the Steam sales years ago. Never played it. I noticed that they had it on Xbox on the Xbox Marketplace as a bundle for Evoland and Evoland 2. And I purchased that. I prefer console gaming because it's more comfortable.
Yes.
I can't do mouse and keyboard for extended periods of time because of my issues with my hands and stuff.
Yeah.
So controllers for me is just easier.
Yeah.
Sitting on the couch, in front of you've seen I got a 120-inch screen that is just
Tom's setup
it's pretty
is
epic.
No joke.
And I prefer that.
Yeah. And you're not a big indie game guy to begin with.
I never really have been. I like AAAs. I always have.
Yep.
I've always wanted to go, especially after listening to you and Drew, and I know that some of the guests that you've had on the show and stuff. There's a lot of focus on indie games.
Yes.
And it kind of has ignited, like a curiosity for me, at least, to try and get into it.
That's all it takes, man. It's just that one little spark, with the one game or maybe a couple games, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to try this.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I got into indie gaming myself. I think it was maybe Braid or Journey or something like that. I started with one of those games, and that's all it took. And I was like, you know what? I kind of like these games. They're short, they're sweet, they're memorable, and they're just really, really impactful.
Yeah, and that's
so much fun.
That's really what I need to do. Like Evoland, I beat it in a Saturday.
Yeah.
I just sat down and I played it all day, and thank God for my wife. She didn't even tell me to do anything.
Yeah, and it feels good to beat a game as an adult. It feels like you got a raise, right?
Yep.
Or you got a promotion. And you're like, holy fuck, I'm still capable.
It's actually accomplishing something, right?
Yeah, I'm capable of finishing something, because when you're an adult, there's not much that you finish.
Nope.
You're just constantly grinding away at your laundry. And as soon as the groceries get low, you have to get more. You're never really completing something.
Nope. The only thing I get to complete is adding on to my backlog.
Yeah, that's a dangerous path.
And I'm really, really good at that.
Yeah, I'm a master.
We've I don't know, God, I can't tell you how many conversations we've had on just backlogs alone.
Oh, God.
I've come to the conclusion that I'm always going to have a backlog, and I don't even care.
At some point, you just have to accept it.
I will buy a game, spend $65 on it after taxes, knowing that I'm probably going to play it for 5 to 10 hours.
Yep.
And for me, $60 is worth 5 to 10 hours of enjoyment.
Maybe it should be like vanilla ice cream, right? You don't make a commitment to like vanilla ice cream. You just eventually like it, and you have the commitment that you always like it, and you've accepted that you like it.
I've always It's my favorite flavor.
Vanilla?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I just
I'm kind of
guessed.
boring.
Yeah, but like if we have that same approach to our backlogs, then maybe the acceptance part will be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And maybe we can eat vanilla ice cream at the same time as staring at our backlogs, right? And then just eat the ice cream, stare at the backlog, and just be like, you know what? It's not going anywhere. I'm not selling it.
Nope.
Because I'm not going to get anything for it. And I know I have a couple gems in there, but I'm going to get around to it.
Yeah, that's why I don't buy physical copies anymore.
No.
Because I got into the, I haven't played this in 6 months, I'm going to get rid of it. And then 3 months later, I'm buying it again because I wanted to buy it.
Yeah, digital is like signing a contract.
It really is. It's signing a contract
commitment
that you're always going to have a backlog.
Yeah.
That's what the contract is. And it's always going to be a reminder that it's there because, you've seen my library. I have 200-something games, downloaded into my Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a constant reminder that I'm never going to play 80, 90% of them.
Sure, but they're there. You know that you have them.
Yep.
And what's even worse is you can delete them and they never really go away.
I know. They're always staring at you.
They're always staring at you.
Yep.
And even when you delete them now, especially I think with Xbox, it'll still show the fucking icon somewhere in like your cloud saves or your cloud deleted library. So it's
not even like that. It's legitimately, this is what you have downloaded.
Yeah.
And then right next to it is ready to download.
Oh, yeah.
Which shows an entire list. So I have like 100-something downloaded and I have, 100-something like ready to be downloaded.
Yeah, psychologically it's masterful because like you're really never letting go of anything.
It's true.
It is true. But, the way that I've seen it recently, and you might have heard me mention this on previous episodes, I see the backlog as a Zelda Ocarina of Time treasure chest, right? When you kick one of those things open or you open it up, you can't wait to see what's inside.
Sure.
You got that golden light coming out, and you just feel the excitement that Link has to find that ruby or that heart. And you just want to imagine the ruby as 10,000 games instead.
Yeah.
Floating in the air. And, you could die from anxiety or have an anxiety attack with the amount of games that are floating above you, or you can look at it and be like, you know what? I have a GameStop worth collection here. And either I'm going to be intimidated by this or I'm going to accept it. Realize, you know what? I own a game store.
That no one else gets to partake in.
Yeah, can you imagine how many people could probably open up their own game store with their backlogs?
I would imagine
Small shop.
that Drew can.
Drew could.
Just noticing like when you guys are talking, he's like, I'm staring at it on my shelf, and I'm envisioning. And Drew, I hope that someday you post a picture of your shelf because I'm a little curious. But I can picture like a wall-filled shelf of nothing but video games from, Atari 2600 to, Xbox One, PS4.
I've been there, man. I've been there, and I'm telling you, there's something going on.
Yeah.
There's something going on. I'm pretty sure I saw a couple price tags on things in there. So he's either starting the business slowly or he's just selling to a couple people. But I saw price tags, so just be careful, Drew. I know what's going on there. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, Will's on to you. You got to watch out.
Yeah, this is the reason why I'm doing the show with Tom. This is our contract is ending, and you'll be forced to sign it once I get back.
I feel like that's a lot of pressure on me. I didn't know anything about that.
I'm sorry, Tom, but you're in now. It's too late. You can't escape. So, what did I experience gaming-wise since I've been here, Tom? Why don't you explain what you introduced me to, and then I'll kind of share my experience with this magical thing.
Well, so Will has been playing Skyrim, right? And so you've requested a few things from me, all based on Skyrim.
Yes.
One was to see Skyrim on the in the movie theater.
Yes, which we accomplished.
On the special edition on the Xbox. So we fired that up. We had some issues with the save game, unfortunately. So you had to start fresh. A new one with no mods on it. Which is a shame because the mods kind of add a lot to the special edition Skyrim for the Xbox One.
Sure.
And then you wanted to see it modded out on the PC.
Yes.
I have a high-end gaming PC with the 4K monitor, So you wanted to see that.
It looked very good.
Yep. And then the last thing was to see it in VR, which I have. I have the Oculus Rift set up. Unfortunately, the Skyrim on the VR didn't really work out because it's not a direct port. I bought like a program called like Vorpex or something to that effect, which is a VR emulator, which works good for some games and not so great for others.
Yeah.
It actually, I didn't tell you this, but it actually emulates Dark Souls 2 into VR.
Ooh.
And that's nauseating.
Even in Majula?
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, the whole game. Now, mind you, it's still a third-person game. It's not like emulating a first-person experience. It's more of like, like a virtual reality. Like you're sitting and kind of like watching around, but you can turn your head and see, different aspects of the game. It's interesting.
I'd like to go to Majula.
We might have to check that out.
Can you imagine if we could walk around in Majula?
Yeah, well, you can. But again, it's not how you think
done,
it.
Though.
Yeah, it's not nicely done.
Nicely done.
It's okay. It's playable.
Okay.
But it's not probably what you're thinking it would be.
Yeah.
Kind of like your VR experience.
Yes, which I can't wait to talk about.
So what I had done is I fired up the VR, and I wanted to take you through my first moments.
Sure.
Because it was an experience, one that I think everyone should probably go through. Which
100%.
I mean, this actually leads right into one of the questions I think that Joe had, which was like one of the best gaming experiences or something to that effect. I forgot what the exact wording was.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So we're gonna start with Joe's question, right?
Yeah. So I think. So what I did, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a, upfront story, was I set up the Oculus, struggled to set up the Oculus. It's been a little bit since I used it, about 9 months, with all the wire. It's
watching Tom set up anything when things are unorganized is not only a humorous experience, but it's just somehow fascinating to watch him struggle put this together. But once everything came together, I was really blown away because I didn't realize how many moving parts were involved with this Oculus device.
Yeah, it's epic. Is really what it is.
Yeah, wires, sensors, touch controls, headset, headphones. It's quite a lot. I think that if Tom had it more organized and ready to go, it would be a little less worrisome, because I think for me the initial setup was like, God damn, like this is a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot of that is I also I have my gaming room in my office where my PC and the VR headset is also doubles as my recording studio.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
And so 90% of the wires are basically guitar cords and microphone cables.
Yes.
And well, I mean, when I was looking for the mic clip, I mean, that was also an event.
It's a 5-minute job,
Yeah.
5 minutes is not a long time, but it's kind of a long time.
Yeah. Anyhow, I digress. So let's read Joe's question and then have you answer it.
Perfect. So Joe asks, I played the new raid in Destiny 2 last night with a group of friends, and the experience was incredible. This time around, the raid is all about understandable mechanics that require a ton of communication and on-the-fly coordination. It really reminded me of how special Destiny's raid experience is, and made me incredibly thankful that I have the chance to coordinate that kind of thing and have my fiance as a teammate to boot. Which brings me to my next question, or my question. Do you have any special gaming experiences that you wish everyone could experience at some point in their lives? I never read this question, Tom, until now, and it's absolutely perfect, right?
Yeah, no, it is.
So I guess I'm just going to jump into it.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to experience VR, okay? Primarily or specifically, Oculus Rift on a PC with the sensors, everything that Tom has, the full setup. This is the full real McCoy, you said, right?
Yep.
This is what you need to start with. Now, I know nothing about VR. I know more about it now, but I still know very little. But this is the right way to do it, based on what Tom was saying, because you have the HTC Vibe, right? That's Samsung.
I have no idea.
I think that's what it is.
Is it?
You said it's called the Vibe?
Yeah.
All right, so you have the Vibe.
Vibe, yeah.
You have the Rift, and there's a couple variants of the Rift too, right?
Yeah, there's a newer one. I don't know much about the newer one. I only saw that it came out yesterday or the day before.
Okay, and that's just because we were on Steam.
Yeah, and it's an updated version. I've read some quick reviews. Some people like the changes. Some people prefer the original.
Sure.
For tracking.
Okay.
But again, I don't know what they updated at all.
Yeah. So, and then you have the PSVR.
Yep.
Okay, which Joe has.
Yep.
And as far as I know, he enjoys it. So I really can't speak on which one is best. I started out with what seems to be one of the best setups, let's just say that, from what we know. And it was unbelievable. I felt like I was really, and I really don't exaggerate, I felt like I was on an episode of Black Mirror. Kind of like the episode that we watched.
Yep.
Striking Vipers season, whatever the last season is. It's a great episode. Even if you don't really like the episode itself, what they do with displaying VR on how it could be in the future. This is not anything like that, but it's very, very similar. And I really feel like I was transported into another world. And I know that people might hear this and think that sounds kind of ridiculous, but no.
No.
This is truly one of those things that you have to experience it. You can't just be like, dude, I'm telling you, man, it's really good. No. You have to put this thing on. And even what you showed me, which was it felt like a core game, right? Like just a basic introduction to VR.
And that's exactly what it was.
And from what I could remember, I was in this white grid-like thing that kind of reminded me of, if you've ever seen The Dark Knight, the one with the Joker, when they go down into Bruce Wayne's lair where he has like his controls in his computer. It was kind of a big white room with grids on the floor. It reminded me of that mixed with like The Matrix. And I remember there was a part where I had to stick my hands out through like a portal, and I was transported into that room. And I swear to God, this room just came together like right before my eyes. And I was in a fucking room, like a tech room with like, it was very 80s like, which is what I loved about it. Super 80s. And you had these old school like Atari looking screens and stuff and cartridges, and there's this like Wall-E kind of robot that's floating around, and it's giving you stuff to pick up and grab, and you can see like these virtual hands in front of you when you put your hands in front of like your face. And it was unbelievable. I was speechless. I mean, Tom was watching me play, right? I mean, you were watching me, and I wasn't even really saying much because I was so fascinated by what I was experiencing. And I just thought, this is incredible. Everyone needs to experience this. And I think one of the first things I said to Tom was, wow, this is amazing, but why are more people not speaking about this experience? And then he said, well, it's kind of an expense thing, right? Yep. I mean, this is PC oriented. The setup itself is expensive. You had to upgrade your graphics card to get this going. And not a lot of gamers are in that boat. They're not in that position.
No,
a lot are, but
I lucked out. There was a guy that I worked with, a younger, in my opinion, a kid. He was like 20, 21, 22 years old. He was a designer that worked under me, and it was his first job.
Yep.
So he went out as a 21-year-old would do, bought himself a new car, making somewhat okay money, and then he went out and bought the Oculus Rift, not realizing that he had no room for it. So he had it set up in his bedroom, and maybe had 2 feet worth of space, and then realized that that's just not enough.
Yeah.
So he sold it to me for $300. I think the original was like $400 to $500 just for the Rift itself, or $600. It's expensive. But on top of that, you said it. I mean, it's the PC to get it to run. I built my PC, as you know. First time was like 2006. I've changed out everything, new motherboard, everything except for the tower itself. Probably like 2 or 3 times since then. And once I got the Rift, I got it to work, but it was spotty. And so then I just upgraded my graphics card to really be able to handle it, and had to drop like another $800 to $1,000 just to upgrade my PC again to run it. So I mean, it's the price point you're looking at, probably $1,000 to $1,500 if you do not have a workhorse gaming PC already. If you already have a gaming PC, the intro to it is a little bit less expensive. You're basically just looking to get the headset and the sensors.
Sure. But I think that if you don't have the setup already, like you don't have the computer, it's still 100% worth the investment.
Absolutely.
I would, like what you just quoted, like $1,000 to $1,500, whatever it is for everything. I would 100% pay that. If you have the money aside and it's extra money and you can use it to experience this, I encourage you to do so, because with the little games that I played, it's still worth it.
Yeah,
it's incredible. I can't wait for Lauren to experience this.
I think it's VR. I think is a little gimmicky now, because you played it for 15-20 minutes, maybe an hour tops, right? You could probably play it all weekend. You would be exhausted. You'd have a headache.
Probably,
which you get used to it, and it subsides once your eyes adjust, right?
Yes.
And speaking from personal experience, I think VR is wonderful, but once you've beat all of the really good games that they have,
I could see the experience.
There's not a lot of stuff out there. I think that's changing. I mean, we just looked. I just purchased a game yesterday.
A lot of games
that I'm gonna get into and I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
But the games are coming out, and I think it's still relatively new, and it's not as developed as it should be.
I agree.
Now we have you brought up the PSVR, which is different, in that the tracking is not nearly as good as one of like the Oculus Rift is. The reason being is that you have the PS camera, which is one focal point that's centered on your television, and then you have the 2 Move controllers that are tracking everything. What you have with the Rift is you have the touch sensor controller things. I forgot the official name for it.
I think it's called touch.
Yeah, but you can see that they're like robust controllers.
They are.
It's not like
well
a Move
made
controller. I mean, it's legitimately, it motion tracks your actual finger placement.
Yes.
Which is very, very cool. So if you point, your hand is going to point real time in the game.
Yeah.
Which is I think is kind of, it's interesting. The way they did the whole grabbing thing is kind of cool.
Yes. And it works
so you can
quite
pick.
well.
It does work well.
At first, it's weird.
It is.
You're like,
it's
am I
really
going to drop the controller, because it's a weird motion.
Yep.
To have to like release your hand, especially in a tense moment.
Yep.
Like in Bullet Train. We're going to get to that in a minute.
But the biggest difference, I think, is not only in the controller, but also in the tracking and the VR. And you asked this yesterday, like, why are all these sensors here? I bought extra sensors so that not only do I have front sensors, but I also have back sensors. So I have 360-degree tracking for my room. So I can turn in any which direction, and I'm not going to lose. It's not going to lose sight of where I am.
Oh, that's interesting. So the core setup is only 2 sensors.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
an extra sensor is like $100 or something. Maybe a little bit less at this point. I forget.
Okay.
But so I have full tracking on the room, and it tracks not only the touch controllers, where those are at in relation to the sensors in relation to the headset, but it also tracks the headset. So when you turn your head, it's going to be tracking the whole thing, and it's going to be tracking the headset with the controllers, with your body, and it's just...
And the rest of the room.
And the rest of the room, exactly.
I turned around a couple times, and it was amazing. Like, I was expecting the experience to be kind of limited within this grid that you're essentially in. And there's a grid that kind of indicates when you're kind of stepping out of the zone, the sensor zone, but you can kind of ignore it, I noticed. And then just turning around in that room when I was in the Wally room, let's just call it that, there was like more computers and more things to touch and pick up. And, you know, the fact that you can take this cartridge and insert it into this Atari looking machine, and then you see this amazing like white grid of cubes build, and then it starts disintegrating, and all of a sudden you have these like purple butterflies releasing.
Yep.
And then you're being told to put out your finger, and the butterfly lands on your finger. It just reminded me of Avatar, right?
Yep.
Like where you have those like little jellyfish like things that are floating around, and Jake is, you know, putting out his arm. Call me easily entertained, but I don't give a fuck, man. Like, that, it was incredible. It doesn't matter what the content was, and I don't care if it's still in like a development stage and we're early in VR. What I saw was enough to convince me that this could be the future of gaming, or at least a big aspect of the future of gaming.
I think it should be the future of gaming.
And my perspective on VR is 100% completely turned around.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of poo-pooed it. I kind of, you know, just said, you know, I don't know enough about it. And
sure.
I feel like it's probably gimmicky. And I just kind of wrote it off, and I completely judged it without even experiencing it. And I think there's too many people that are doing that, and that's why they haven't had the experience of it.
Yeah. And a lot of people who have had the experience aren't doing it as robust as you were able to. They're doing it with like the cell phone headsets, you know, that you get,
right,
where you like download an app and like
put your phone in there. I think.
Yeah, you put your phone in, and that's, you know, that's your VR experience.
Might be okay,
and that's not bad. You know, I've done that. It works okay. But like you, my first experience was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I showed you Arizona Sunshine. For those of you who may not know, it's a zombie shooter. It's very realistic. You get thrown into the Arizona desert, and I mean,
which looks incredible.
It is a beautiful game, and you feel like you're in the video game, almost to the point. And this was one of the first games I played, and I showed you. They had a hamburger on a grill, and you pick up the hamburger and move it towards the face mask. You know, in action of eating it, and it's used to replenish your health. And wouldn't you know it, I pick up this hamburger and I'm putting it towards my face, towards the headset to replenish my health, and I open up my mouth because my brain is just so like enamored. I'm like so engrossed into this that my brain was tricked into thinking that I'm there.
Sure.
That I'm experiencing a mouthful of hamburger, and all I got was a mouthful of air, and then I felt stupid and thankful no one was in the room.
Well, I mean, it had gristle on it. It looked amazing.
I know. It's weird.
I shouldn't even know what gristle is. I just know that because I know about like you know, terminology that's used in cooking shows.
Yep.
You know, when they talk about braising a steak and there's gristle on it, whatever it may be. This thing looked amazing, and I picked it up, and Tom's like, "Yeah, turn it around, like move it around," and sure enough, it was like the sun was hitting it just right, and I wanted to eat it. And vegetarian or not, doesn't matter, man. That food looked real.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you for opening your mouth on that one.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Yeah, it was amazing. Bullet Train was something very special, and if you want to experience what it's like to be John Wick, that's the game to do it.
Yep.
I mean, literally, like there was a part where I just had to keep grabbing more guns and grenades and stuff, and there's guys coming up quite close to you, mind you, and it gets kind of terrifying, like 'cause you really feel like they're right there, and being able to pick up the guns and throw them on the ground and pick up more again, you get into like a quick swing of things too. Like you develop your VR skills, start developing like quite rapidly, because at first you're very awkward with what's happening, because like you're still trying to digest the fact that you're like not somewhere else, but you are, and the experience like really takes a big chokehold on you, and then eventually it starts releasing its grip, and you develop your VR skills of grabbing and teleporting and moving around and just adjusting to being in a different world quite quickly. But yeah, that was fucking fun. And then you had that robot that kind of appears and it's like launching the rockets, and you got to grab the rocket and throw it back. And I mean, you and Lauren saw, like I was ducking down, I was like reacting the way I would have reacted if a rocket or 5 rockets were launching right at me.
Sure.
And yeah, some of the games are kind of gimmicky, but I don't think that's what matters. It's the experience itself.
Yes.
that makes this a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yep.
And that's my VR story. Everyone needs to try it. Start with the Rift if you can. Buy the Rift if you can. Make the room for it, because Tom's room that he has to set up in, I mean, this room's not very big, man. I mean, it's a pretty small room, but you have the space in the middle where you can still have an active VR zone.
Yep.
And walk around a little bit. And then I guess the next phase is they're going to start doing those weird treadmill things where you're like in a round treadmill.
Yeah.
And you can start walking in different directions, because I've seen that. And years ago, I saw that. So they must be working on that as potentially the next peripheral that we're going to have to buy.
Yeah, I might have to
buy it.
I might have to buy a new house in order to get that peripheral.
Yeah, I could see it right now. Paula, the guys are here delivering the VR treadmill. What? Don't worry about it. Just clear some space.
Yep, never come in this room.
We have
to what I purchased.
We have to take the railing down from the stairs to get it up, but I swear to God, I'll put it back. I just have to have this.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future of VR. I really am. I never was. I never thought that I would be. And now I am. I'm in. I'm invested. Take my money. Once I acquire it, take it.
Give me your money. I'll be glad to take it.
Yeah. So. I mean, if you're working for VR and you're going to help me acquire VR, then yes, you can.
That's not the stipulation that you proposed. You just told me to take your money.
That's not what I thought. So what does Vic have to say here? What is your fondest gaming memory? Like one memory or moment that trumps all. Something that you'll remember or talk about, maybe say with your grandkids or friends when you're very old. As for what I've been playing, I picked up Cadence of Hyrule and have been loving it. It's the perfect amount of challenging. Also, remix Zelda music is effing on point. They did an amazing job with it. The whole fight to the beat is great, and as a fan of weird music games, Guitaru and Oiendon, that's a very good game. This is right up my alley. When you get a Switch, you should definitely get it. So, Drew doesn't have a Switch, so he's probably directing that at Drew. You and I have a Switch. Yours has paint on it. Mine has dust on it. Okay? So those two descriptions are an indication of how much we're utilizing our Switches, which is often.
I think I used mine when I was in India.
Yeah, and that was
it. And that's actually the reason why I bought it, was just so I had a business trip. I was gone for a month out of country. I bought the Switch so I could have something to do.
Sure. I think it's a good purchase.
That was the only thing that was the only time I played it.
Yeah, now it's got paint on it, but that's okay. You know, you can scratch it off, leave it, and say that this is a limited edition paint gun model.
Well, eventually when I become famous, it's gonna be worth a lot of money. I'll pawn it off as a piece of art.
Yeah, and there's a whole backstory. You know, this is when I was repainting our home theater room, and this shows the authenticity of that. But yes, anyway, what is your fondest gaming memory? Something that I would communicate to our grandkids or friends when we're very old. This is a great question, man.
It is.
Because this kind of makes you organize your thoughts to what you've played up to now, right? Because there could be another experience or many more to come that you would still talk about when you're old. But we're not there yet. So since we're not there yet, I would say, I don't know, man. I might have to go back to Skyrim again. I hate to keep doing it, but like, I have a lot of good gaming memories that I would want to share with my children or anyone else when I'm older. But that still might be one of them, because I invested a lot of time. Dark Souls, probably those two games. Like, if I had to think of games that I spent a long time in, really enjoyed, and have the most fondest memories, it would probably be one of those games.
So yeah, I'm taking the question maybe a little bit too literal, where when I'm reading that, I'm thinking like, what precise moment in my life have I had about video games, involving video games, that I'm going to tell a story about? And there's a few that pop into my head. One, the most recent one would be the VR story that I just shared, where I'm trying, my first time completely in this virtual reality world, and getting lost and having my mind tricked into thinking that I am picking up a hamburger and I'm going to eat it, right? I mean, I think it's a very vivid moment, and it's a very vivid memory, and one that I have shared, not just one time. I've shared it with other people and trying to get them to understand like how VR really is. But ultimately knowing, that no matter what I describe it as, I'm never going to be able to do it justice, right?
No.
The other moment I have are like earlier childhood memories, playing Pitfall on Atari at my buddy's house,
Sure.
Growing up.
Yeah.
And dying over and over and over and over again. There was another memory, of the first time I saw someone beat Mario Brothers when I was about 6 or 7. Staying over at friend's house, stuff like that. Like these are specific moments and memories of my life tied to video games. Mind you, I've had video games part of my life for over 30 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many, and they're just, I think ultimately the memories I have involving video games are really tied to different scenarios and different moments. So I could share, with my grandkids or friends when I'm old. It would really depend on in what context. I mean, is it talking about, games you played when you were 6? Because then I'm going to have memories for it.
Sure.
Or is it a game, some dramatic time in your life when you broke your leg, or what have you, right? I mean, there's like so many specific moments that are tied in my life, and I think a lot of our lives where they're tied to video games specifically. And I can pull any of them up, and it all depends on what context that needs to be, described in.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think where you are in your life and what you were playing at that time period or that point in your life really shapes your answer.
Yep.
And I think that, I don't know, I wouldn't say that this is a unique time in my life when I experienced VR. It's just another stage in my life. But in some ways, I might change my answer to VR as well.
Sure.
Potentially, because I feel like that was kind of your answer in a way. And I think that, when we're old and we're sharing that story, VR is probably going to be insane, right? Yep. But we will be able to share the story of how we experienced it when it first came out.
Right.
And how we can say, look, I get it. It's VR everything now. But your grandfather or your dad or whatever you want to present yourself as, depending on your audience, you can say that I experienced it firsthand when it first came out, and this is what it was like. And we were realizing like how this could be our future. Now it is, but I was at that turning point. So I think that would be a really good way to share a pretty incredible story.
Sure.
It's kind of like, I mean, it's not as dramatic as saying, look, I was in Vietnam, let me tell you all about it. But in some ways, it kind of makes me think of a story like that. It would have that compelling nature versus, I was really big into like these fantasy games, Dark Souls and blah, blah, blah. They might be like, you know what, Dad, like, we already have that.
Right.
What did you play or what did you experience that is fucking interesting? Tell us an interesting story. I don't want to hear about this. So maybe that's what would happen if I chose to speak about Skyrim or Dark Souls. Maybe. Because it's too much of an interim period. VR, this is something that we're witnessing now, and this is some Star Trek shit, dude.
Yeah, I changed
really
I changed my answer though as you're I think there's a lot of moments, but I think the most fondest memories I have with video game is gonna be the Bad Company days.
Oh,
the Call of Duty Black Ops. When we had, I don't know, like a dozen or more people hopping in and out of games, playing Battlefield or whatever the case is.
We had an empire.
We really did, and I think the fondest video game memory I have, I think, was that year or two that we were just always playing. Even Master Sammy included in that.
Yeah, included, man. I mean,
because it was fantastic, and I take it all back.
I would.
Because that, I think, friendships were found, in that time period.
Yes. Joe's one of them.
Yeah.
Raph is one of them.
Yeah. So I think that's really, that's it for me.
It's a great
answer. And it's not so much about the video game that we were playing, because we played a few of them.
Yes.
But it was about experiencing, what online friendship could actually be. You know,
Yes.
and online gaming could be, and like an actual sense of community.
It brought people together, and
Yeah.
it creates friendships, or it can create friendships that can change your life.
Yep.
And meeting Joe and hanging out with Raph and all of those guys, it was really, really cool. And we're still in touch. They've been on the show. We haven't had Raph on yet, but we'll get him on. And yeah, I mean, I hate to change my answer again, but I feel like you came up with a better one again, because like that really was probably the highlight of my gaming career, right? Like if you want to see it that way, like we just played a lot, and I think we were all at this very unique time in our lives where we had jobs, but we just weren't. There was like we just had more time somehow, and I think it's because our jobs didn't progress into what they are now.
Right.
Our lives changed as well. We moved. Our marriages got different and more serious, and like your life decisions and the things that happen in your life just get larger. And I think we just kind of blossomed into that, and we'll never forget those times. But god damn, were they good, man.
Sure.
There was a cadence. There was like, all right, 7 o'clock BF, like text going out. There was lingo. There was verbiage that was being used that we just haven't really harkened back to in a while. But I would love to maybe like spend a couple months trying to figure out a day or a week that we can bring this back, even if it's just for like 2 days, one day.
One day. And the sad thing is, it would probably take a couple months to plan.
That's why I said a couple months. That's
before it was a text message, and I'm like, I'm there. 5-minute notice, and let's get it done.
We're like CEOs now. We're so jam packed with schedules and conference calls and whatever it is that we have to do for our work that it's hard to plan for that. But I think we should try.
We should. I think it's a great idea. I would love to get to even play Battlefield 5. I haven't touched it.
It looks good.
I own it. I played it for 5 seconds.
We should fire that up.
Yeah, you should just get an Xbox. So we can. You can join. Drew would be all over that. I know he's an Xbox fan like myself.
He is. Yeah, I mean he's a little bit of everything, as you know. But yeah, those guys and a lot of that community that we had, it was all mainly on Xbox.
It was.
It wasn't mainly. It just was.
It was on Xbox.
And that's back when we were just playing the 360 at the highlight of its prime.
Yep.
God damn, it was such a good system. There really wasn't that many issues with it, like at all.
I mean,
just
Red
kind
Ring,
of worked.
Except for the Red Ring of Death.
Yeah, but like when they fixed it.
Yeah.
With the later consoles, like they had the black one or whatever, the Elite, whatever the fuck it was. I mean, either way, they put some kind of new thing in there, some new graphics card or something.
Heat sink or something, I think it was.
Something. So I never had that problem, but yeah, that's a great answer. I'm going to go with that. We're both going to go with that, I think.
Yeah.
So do we have any more questions?
There was one more.
Why don't you read that one, Tom?
All right. This one is from Puxor. Okay. I was probably going to read that a little bit differently. Puxor makes sense. After Cadence of Hyrule, what other AAA franchise do you want to see given the indie game treatment? I'd be fine with Halo mixed with Space Giraffe, Game Cross game. Or I just want to see what Twisted Pixel would do with Far Cry.
What other AAA franchise do you want to see given the indie game treatment? So, I mean, this is kind of tough for us because I don't know anything about this game, Cadence of Hyrule.
No, me neither.
I'm assuming it's a Zelda. Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is because I read some of the description from Vic. But that still doesn't tell me what this game is about. So I'm guessing they put an indie twist on Zelda.
I think it sounds like that.
I mean, we just have to guess here, folks, so bear with us. But if we were to think of a AAA title with an indie treatment, holy fuck, what would I don't know.
So, I mean, I think really to think about this question for me, we discussed this actually a little tiny bit. I don't have a lot of experience with indie games.
Whereas I do.
Where you do.
But still, I'm struggling.
So, like if I take, let's say I take my favorite game of all times, which is Dark Souls.
Yep.
The franchise Dark Souls.
Yes.
I mean, what would indie, making that an indie game be? And I'm not sure if I really, because I don't have anything to compare it to. I'm not sure that I would really know.
Yeah, I feel like if somebody created like an 8-bit Dark Souls or some kind of indie game experience, maybe it would be good.
I don't know if it would be.
But I don't know. I mean, you just don't want to mess with that, you know? And I don't know, I think that we might need to research this game that these guys are speaking of a little bit more.
Yeah,
because I just don't have anything to go off of.
I'm hoping that that Puxor could maybe elaborate on the question. Because I'm kind of curious. Maybe you and Drew can handle that. I think that might
maybe
be.
We'll have to wait for that one. Which is fine. I mean, we don't always get to all of the questions, and sometimes we have to answer them on a different episode.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I can't really envision a AAA title being done as an indie game.
I mean, are there any AAA titles that are awful? Well, there's a lot of AAA titles that are awful, but are there any that could be saved by doing
an indie
like
format?
A more avant-garde? I mean, 'cause that's what I think. When I think indie titles, I'm thinking things that are a little more revolutionary.
Sure.
Out of the ordinary type of games with game mechanics that are a little bit different, maybe.
Yeah.
Where they don't have the money, so they have to rely on story-driven gameplay,
simple mechanics,
or mechanics that are different.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Evo Land, which is the only thing I can really compare it to. You have a premise that would not work as a AAA game.
Yeah.
But it works really well as an indie title.
Yeah, I don't know. This one I require more time to ponder about this. I need more time to think about this. I need to look up this game, Cadence of Hyrule. I feel like I saw something about it recently. Yeah, because it's on the Switch. I think it was an E3 thing. So maybe, I guess it's out. It has to be out. If Vic's playing it, right? And Pux is playing it. But, we're going to have to hold off on that one until Drew and I can get around to it. And Tom, you can research it as well, and then maybe leave us a question in the mailbag, and then we can bring that back up, right?
Sure.
I think that's what we're going to have to do. What else we got? We have anything else to share?
I don't know that we do. I think
is it weird to think that I want to take that little pen that they had in Men in Black, where it erases your memory, and do that over and over again so I can experience VR over and over again?
No, because it's an amazing moment. I didn't even show you half the games that I have either.
Right.
Like there's there's again, I like fantasy, so I bought some fantasy type of games where sword and shield stuff, and there's one in particular where you actually have like a sword in one hand, a shield in the other, or you can switch it up, put your sword away, pick out a bow, or you can put that away and pick up a wand, and then you're doing magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all in a game, and you're all like motion, and you're sword fighting.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, and also hurts your hand when you throw it up into the ceiling fan that you mistakenly left on.
Yeah, I did that a couple times, except I don't think I hit the fan. I just hit the bottom of the light.
Yeah, I turned the
fan. I
fan.
did it at least twice.
I busted my knuckles open because I had the fan going full blast.
Can you imagine if they made like a VR NBA Jam and you left your fan on?
Oh, Jesus.
You wouldn't have a hand.
No.
Or you would, but it would just be nicked up.
Yeah, it'd be pain.
You'd have like those like little those nicks like where you get the skin that's slightly lifted.
Yep.
Like, what do you call that? What kind of injury is that?
A painful one?
Is this a scrape? A rough scrape where you have like your skin, like a skin flap? But there's like no blood.
Skin flap.
There's no blood though, right? Like when that happens. Like
I don't know.
A lot of times you're like, oh fuck. Like I can like peel this like a banana.
Now usually if there's any sort of skin flap, there's a lot of blood with me.
I guess so. I don't know. But yeah, that wouldn't be fun. You need a high vaulted ceilings for NBA Jam VR. God damn, that would be fun. But I guess my closing statement would be get the Men in Black eraser pen thing and just constantly play VR, erase your memory, play VR, erase your memory over and over again. And you'd probably find a lot of different ways to use that pen. Be a very dangerous tool to have. You could use it on anybody for anything. You could call out for a week, I guess, right? And go back and just erase everybody's memory so that way they don't realize that you did it.
Yeah, but why stop at a week?
'Cause you'd probably be well. You'd be fired, but then I guess you could erase that thought too.
Yeah.
Play VR as soon as possible. See it as a deadline. See, as though your life depends on it. That's how quickly you should be running to get an Oculus Rift. And research John Carmack, because I believe he is the COO of Oculus. Pretty sure he is. If you don't know who he is, look him up in detail, because he's a very interesting guy. He's a rocket scientist too.
I know nothing of him. I will have to look him up.
Yeah, he has a rocket company that builds rockets, and it's called Armadillo Aerospace.
It seems
which
like
I think is pretty cool, because like, how many people do you know that are an actual rocket scientist? He actually is one.
I actually know literally nobody.
Right, like it's one of those things that we always quote, right? Like, oh, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. John Carmack is a rocket scientist, and he figured out VR.
It's a fair point.
So let that sink in, folks. All right. Yeah, that's all I got. What do you got, Tom? What do you got for a closing statement for our 30th episode, mind you?
Huh. You know, it was just 10 episodes ago when I was on the 20th episode.
Was it 20?
Yeah, it was 20.
Oh, look at that.
I know. Look at that.
We're keeping it even. So it's 11:31, Monday the 24th. What does Tom have to say to the world of the WDGR tribe?
Thanks.
For having you on?
Yeah.
I mean, you were a co-host today.
Well, yeah, you know, thanks.
Yeah, co-host and a guest. And why should people play Divinity 2?
Oh, I don't know if they should.
You don't know if they should?
Well, no, I mean, maybe it's not everyone's bag.
Okay. Everyone's bag. I like that.
You know, I mean,
it's a little...
I think ultimately, really, we should just all do what we want to do.
Sure. And
no matter what it is. I mean,
yeah.
I think VR should, you know, be a part of that. I think that if you have an opportunity, you know, do it. If you feel like driving to upstate New York, stop by. I'll be glad to show it to you.
Yeah, he'll bring in the layer.
Yeah.
Give him some time to set up, though.
Yeah, I'll need at least, you know, a long time.
Bring a snack.
Yep.
Bring your phone so you can watch some random videos like we do, and we'll teach you how to do that as well.
Yeah.
We have a course coming up that I think we're gonna work on a course for first, like an online course, and then move into the manual, right?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
For people to professionally watch random videos the way that we do.
Oh, right, because we talked about that.
We did talk about that, yeah. So do we start with the manual or do we start with the online course?
Probably the manual.
Okay. Do people still look at manuals, though?
No, it's where the money is. You do like a bundle. You know, do a subscription-based online course, you know.
A series of DVDs.
Yeah.
Audio CDs.
Yeah, people like physical copies of things, you know, to make it tangible.
They do. I don't think they want exclusive PDF files.
No.
Well,
so I don't have anything. Really,
okay.
I enjoyed this. This was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was a little leery on whether or not we'd be able to talk for an hour, let alone almost an hour and a half that we've actually talked. I don't think we started the show until about 30 minutes in, so I think the show might be like an hour, but...
Sure. But here's the problem. Like, I could probably sit here for another 3 hours, you know, but we just don't have the time to do that. We have guests that we have to attend to. I'm one of them, really, so Tom has to continue hosting me.
Yeah.
And catering to me and Lauren. You know, what we've been doing is just going, excuse me, Tom, water, please. And Tom just brings it over.
Yeah, well, I like to give the whole experience of you know, you're at a resort, so you know you're poolside, you got the hot tub, you got the frozen drinks.
It's like a sandals resort, just cheaper, and we get to boss people around.
Yeah.
Tom has been kind enough to bring us towels, frozen margaritas, sunscreen, Stella Artois beer in a can, which we're probably going to have one after. I'm feeling one. You feeling one?
I am, actually.
Yeah, that would be a good way to round off the show. So anyways, folks, enough of us waffling on here, because we could do that for a long time. Please check out our Discord room. our Instagram, our Facebook, our iTunes, our Spotify. We're on everything. Stitcher. We have our own website. We have an email. We don't have a fax machine, but I'm still working on that. And give this a listen. I think you're going to have a good time. It's kind of an impromptu episode, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And so did Tom.
Sure did.
So we'll see you next time. Take care. Tom, say goodbye.
Bye, folks.